Hi, welcome to Aging with Amy, where we help families to thrive, not just survive, the aging journey. Hey there, and welcome back to Aging with Amy, the podcast where we talk honestly about what it means to help your parents age with dignity, and also how to take care of yourself in the process. Today's episode is titled, You're Not a Bad Daughter for Needing Help. And I want you to really let that sink in. You're not a bad daughter. You're not selfish, and you're not doing it wrong. Let's talk about that. I see this all the time. Amazing, loving, hardworking adult daughters who are holding it all together for everyone. You're managing your mom's doctor's appointments, you're checking on all of her medications, you're worrying about falls, memory loss, loneliness, and maybe you're also even working a full-time job, raising kids, and running a household. You're on edge, exhausted, and somehow still feeling like it's not enough, and the guilt, it is relentless. Guilt when you miss that phone call, guilt when you snap at your parent or your spouse, guilt when you think about hiring help or looking at assisted living or even just taking a break. But here's the truth. You are not meant to do this alone. We live in a culture that romanticizes being the good daughter. You know the image, selfless, always available, never complains, never needs anything. But caregiving isn't a Pinterest board. It is real life. And in real life, people have limits. As a nurse care manager, I have seen what happens when those limits are ignored. I've seen the daughters, amazing, devoted daughters, burnt out, lose their health, damage relationships, even develop depression or some chronic illness themselves because they're carrying too much alone. So let me say this as clearly as I can. You have permission to ask for help. You have permission to build a support system, to delegate, to rest. You can still be a loving daughter and ask a care manager or caregiver to step in. You can still be devoted and explore home care, respite services, or assisted living. In fact, being willing to ask for help is one of the most loving things that you can do for your parent and for yourself. Let me tell you about a real family that I worked with. I received a call from the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Price, an 84 and 86-year-old couple living alone in a retirement community. Their children lived out of state. They were growing increasingly concerned. Their parents had dementia and were no longer going to doctor's appointments. Worse, they were still driving, despite being cognitively impaired. Their children tried to convince them to accept help, but like some adults, Mr. and Mrs. Price, they felt insulted and they refused to allow any outside assistance. Mr. and Mrs. Price saw themselves as fully capable and did not recognize the extent of their cognitive decline. I knew that in this case, a direct approach would likely cause resistance. So I decided to introduce myself as a friend of their daughter who had asked me to just stop by from time to time and come in and visit. They agreed to let me come and visit, and over time allowed me to begin driving them to their medical appointments. During those visits, I noticed that they were not taking their medications correctly, and this was leading to worse health outcomes. To ease them into receiving help, I started organizing their medications into pill organizers whenever I would go by and visit. And slowly, they began to trust me, and even they started to even rely on my visits. After a few weeks, I was able to introduce caregivers, and eventually they began to love the caregivers. With consistent medication management, regular doctor visits, and the right in-home support, Mr. and Mrs. Price began to thrive. I talk a lot about the difference in thriving versus just getting through the day. Their story is not unique. Many older adults struggle greatly with accepting help, even when they desperately need it. If you're facing a similar situation with your parents, know that patience, relationship building, and a step-by-step approach can make all the difference. The Price's daughter had been trying to manage everything from 600 miles away. She felt so guilty that she hadn't noticed how bad things had gotten. But once we started working together, she realized that she didn't have to carry it all by herself. We built a care plan together. We brought in the right help, and the whole family started to breathe again. If you're listening to this and you can relate, I want you to know that you're not alone. You're not weak. You're not failing. You're navigating something incredibly hard and doing the best that you can. If you need support, I am here. Coastal Care Partners exists for families just like yours, and this podcast is a great place for truth, hope, and practical guidance. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with a friend. Follow Aging with Amy wherever you listen, and remember, being a good daughter doesn't mean doing it all alone. Until next time, take care of yourself too. Bye.